Let me ask you something. What happens in her mind the moment she finally realizes you're not coming back? Not texting, not checking her stories, not chasing, just gone that moment right there. It's not sadness. She feels it's fear because now she knows the power has shifted. You were the safety net, the backup plan, the emotional sponge, and now you're the ghost that haunts her ego. She expected you to beg to show up in her DMS, to leave long, heartfelt messages trying to fix something. She broke, but instead, you did something terrifying. You vanished. Not because you're playing games, but because you woke up. You finally understood chasing someone who let you go isn't strength. It's surrender, and you're done surrendering in this video. I'm going to walk you through the 10 psychological and stoic turning points that happen when you don't come back, how your silence becomes her mirror, how your detachment flips the dynamic, and how walking away with dignity doesn't just make her miss you, it makes her question everything. She thought she knew about herself because when a man becomes untouchable, emotionally sovereign, and utterly still in his power, the world bends around him. If you're tired of being her second option, if you're ready to become the man she never saw coming, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. My silence speaks louder than my pain. Now, let's one. She expects you to come crawling back, begin number 1. She expects you to come crawling back. Let's be real. She thought you'd break first. She thought the silence would crush you, that the anxiety, the late night overthinking, the sudden distance would drive you back to her feet, that you'd come crawling back with apologies, voice notes, long paragraphs, trying to piece together a puzzle she deliberately shattered, because that's what she's seen before. That's the pattern she's grown comfortable with. Pull away and he chases, withhold love and he bleeds for it. But this time, no. You didn't just go silent. You disappeared mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You didn't argue. You didn't try to prove your worth. You gave her exactly what she wasn't ready for, the sound of her own choices echoing back in a quiet room. And now that silence is louder than any apology you could have written, because you've stopped playing a game, she only started to feed her ego. Understand this, most people don't want closure, they want control. And when you remove yourself from that loop, not in anger, but in absolute peace, you destroy the illusion she had of herself. She expected to still be the sun in your sky, but you built a new galaxy, and she wasn't invited. This isn't just about heartbreak. This is stoic discipline in action. The moment you stopped reacting, the power began to shift. Not because you were trying to manipulate her, but because you finally realized you never had to beg for love in the first place. You were of the value, she just couldn't see it until it was too late. Number 2, the 2. The mind breaks before the heart. Does mind breaks before the heart does? Here's the truth. No one tells you her heart won't break. First, her mind will, because it's not love. She's mourning. It's the loss of psychological control she thought she had. You mapped out. Predictable, emotional, reactive. She knew which buttons to push, when to go cold, when to breadcrumb, when to pull back just enough to make you chase. But then you stopped playing. And when that mental grip slips, that's when the real unraveling begins. Now she's pacing, second-guessing, checking her phone more than she ever did when you were actually texting her, wondering why you haven't watched her story, wondering if you're hurting or, worse, healing. See, when a man goes still stoic and emotionally sovereign, it creates a silence that screams. And in that silence, her narrative starts to fall apart. Maybe he didn't need me. Maybe I wasn't as special as I thought. Maybe he was the one that's the real torment. Not heartbreak, but shattered ego. Because if you're not suffering without her, then she wasn't the center of your world. And if she wasn't the center, then what does that make her? This is where dark psychology meets stoicism. You didn't ghost her, you ascended, and that quiet evolution, it breaks her mind before it ever touches her heart. 3. Silence isn't empty. It's strategy number 3. Silence isn't empty. It's strategy. She thinks your silence is a void, a weakness, a sign that you're confused, wounded, stuck in some emotional limbo. But what she doesn't realize is this: your silence isn't emptiness. It's calculation. It's strategy. It's the sound of a man choosing not to waste his breath, where it's no longer respected, and that terrifies her more than any angry message ever could. Because when you used to react, she had control. When you used to plead, she felt powerful, but now she's staring into a vacuum. She can't fill. She doesn't know where you are, what you're doing, who you're becoming. You've become a riddle. She can't solve. And the feminine ego hates being confused. That confusion starts to morph into curiosity, and curiosity into obsession. This is where stoicism becomes your greatest weapon. Not in yelling, not in explaining, but in withdrawing, in detaching, in realizing that you don't need to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it. You've stopped arguing your value, and that's what makes you valuable. Understand this: men who talk too much lose power, men who go quiet gain mystique, and mystique. That's irresistible, not because it's fake, but because it shows restraint, and restraint, that's the mark of 4. You become the mystery. She can't solve. Mastery number 4. You become the mystery she can't solve. At first, she thought you'd reach out. Then she thought you were just playing hard to get. But now she's starting to realize you're not playing at all. You've detached, you've moved, you've become unpredictable. And there's nothing more haunting to the female psyche than a man she can no longer figure out. She checks your social media, but sees no desperation, no cryptic posts, no sad quotes, just silence or worse, progress. And suddenly, you're not the broken man. She expected you're a mystery, and mysteries keep people up at night because now she's stuck wondering, why did he stop caring? Is he with someone else? Was I not enough? She used to think she held all the cards, but now she doesn't even know what game is being played. That's the power of detachment. It doesn't scream, it whispers, it doesn't chase, it walks away. And in walking away, you became rare. You became sacred. You became something her ego can't categorize and her emotions can't kill off. This is what stoic power looks like. Not flashy, not reactive, just still, disciplined, and unreachable. And when you become unreachable, you become 5. When you go cold, she starts to burn, unforgettable. Number 5, when you go cold, she starts to burn. She thought you'd burn without her, that your world would collapse. Your confidence would crumble and your days would revolve around trying to get her back. But when you went cold, she's the one who started to burn because she expected chaos, and you gave her calm. She expected weakness, and you gave her indifference, that emotional shift. It flips the entire power dynamic. You see, emotions are mirrors when you were warm, available, and always reaching out. She felt like the prize. But now, your emotional coldness forces her to face herself. No validation, no comfort, no attention. And that silence becomes a spotlight on her own emptiness. It's not rejection that stings the most. It's irrelevance, and now that she no longer has access to your energy, she's starting to feel what she once made you feel: doubt, confusion, longing. This is the essence of stoic control. You didn't rage, you didn't beg, you simply froze. The emotional supply, you showed her what life feels like without your fire, and now she's shivering in the cold of her own creation. There's nothing colder than a man who once cared and now 6. Her ego can't handle. Irrelevance doesn't number. 6, her ego can't handle irrelevance. She didn't need you until you disappeared. She didn't value your presence until your absence became undeniable. That's the thing about ego. It feeds on attention, not affection. And when you were constantly there, constantly proving, chasing, showing up, she felt validated, desired, in control. but now you've gone dark. And that silence, it's not just uncomfortable, it's insulting to her ego. See, most breakups don't hurt her right away because she still believes you'll orbit her. She thinks you're just waiting for the right time to return. But when she realizes she's no longer the center of your world, not even close, that's when the panic sets in. Not because she misses love, but because she can't stand being irrelevant. That's the real wound. It's not about losing you, it's about losing the power she once held over you. And this is why stoicism wins, because you don't act out. You don't explode, you just stop showing up. You give her the gift of distance. You become someone she used to know, and that hits harder than any insult ever could remember when a man becomes emotionally unavailable to those who took him for granted. He becomes legendary in their 7. You transformed the pain into power memory. Number 7, you transformed the pain into power. She thought the pain would break you, that you'd spiral, lose focus, fall apart. But instead you evolved. You took the heartbreak, the silence, the confusion, the rejection, and you turned it into fuel. You started hitting the gym harder, reading deeper, meditating longer. You turned inward and discovered a version of yourself even you hadn't met yet, that version. He doesn't chase, he builds, he becomes. And now she's watching from a distance, wondering how the man she walked away from became more disciplined, more attractive, more in control. That's what she didn't expect. She thought you needed closure from her, but what you needed was separation from who you used to be around her. You didn't just move on, you leveled up. This is where dark psychology and stoicism meet in the fire. Because true power isn't loud, it's silent. It's what happens when you stop talking and start doing, when you let go of needing her to see your value, and instead become so valuable that it echoes without a word. She left thinking she'd left you broken. But what she really did was awaken the warrior within 8. You've become unreachable, and that's attractive. You number 8, you've become unreachable, and that's attractive. In the beginning, she had access to every part of you, your emotions, your time, your loyalty. You were available, predictable heron, but now you've become unreachable, not because you're bitter, but because you're busy becoming. You're no longer sitting around hoping she comes back. You're locked in focused distance, not out of spite, but out of strength. And now that distance draws her in. Understand something. Women don't chase what they already have. They chase what they can't figure out. And now you're no longer posting for attention. You're not liking her stories. You're not showing up in the places she expects. You've gone off grid. And that's where the attraction is reborn, because now you're rare. You're a question she doesn't have the answer to anymore. This is stoic power at its peak. You didn't just stop reaching out. You stopped existing in her world altogether. And the moment you became unavailable, you became unforgettable, not for who you were, but for the version she'll never get to know. Let her wonder, let her scroll, let her feel the weight of the silence she once mistook. For 9, she's watching, but you're not looking. Weakness, number 9, she's watching, but you're not looking. She won't admit it, but she's watching quietly, obsessively, silently, stalking your stories, your posts, your progress. She's digging through your digital shadow, trying to decode what you're feeling, who you're seeing, if you're still hurting. But the twist, you're not looking back, and that is driving her insane. See, when you were all in, she barely noticed. But now that you've withdrawn, evolved, and disconnected, your indifference has become her obsession. You used to study her like a map. Now you walk like a man with no destination except forward. And while she's glued to the past, you've locked in on your future. This is psychological reversal. You've gone from the one who was emotionally dependent to the one she can't stop thinking about all, because you stopped trying to prove your worth and started living like it was never in question. That's the stoic way to let your actions do the speaking and your silence do the teaching. She's watching, hoping for a sign that you still care, but you've transcended that need, because nothing is more powerful than a man too focused to notice who's watching him. Rise. 10. Your absence becomes her punishment. Number 10. Your absence becomes her punishment. At first, she thought your silence was temporary, that it was part of some emotional game. But as time passed and your presence remained gone, she began to feel it. Not just miss it, ache for it, because now every room she walks into without your energy feels colder. Every notification that isn't you becomes a tiny dagger. Every version of you in her memory becomes more powerful than the one she took for granted. She thought your love was limitless, that you'd always be there waiting, hoping, watching. But now she realizes you're not coming back, and that realization hits deeper than any argument, any closure, any goodbye, because it means she doesn't get to fix it, doesn't get another shot. You've left the building and took your value with you. Your absence has become her punishment. Not because you intended to hurt her, but because you finally learned that a man's love should never be thrown at someone who treats it like background noise. You walked away with your head high, your soul intact and your dignity sharpened by pain. That's the mark of a stoic. That's the power of letting go without needing applause. She played with something sacred, and now that it's gone, she realizes it was never replaceable. If you made it this far, understand something. This wasn't just a breakup, this was your awakening. Her walking away was the trigger, not the tragedy. It forced you to confront your attachment, your validation seeking your inner weakness, and it gave you the chance to kill it. You didn't just lose a woman, you shed an old version of yourself. This is the path of the stoic man, quiet, composed, focused, not driven by revenge, but by discipline, not fueled by hate, but by clarity. You don't chase anymore because you've realized you are the storm, and now anyone who took you for granted will be haunted by your absence, far more than they ever were by your presence. Let her feel the weight of what she lost. Let your silence echo louder than words ever could. You're not bitter, you're just done. And that kind of peace, that's unshakable. If you're stepping into your power, walking away from what no longer serves you and building a version of yourself. No one can ignore. Hit that like button, subscribe to Stoic Blessing, turn on notifications, and one last time comment below. She lost access to a version of me that no longer exists. Your story isn't over.